Oh, what's going on, everybody? It is Mythic bringing you guys another mock draft, and as you guys see, we have a guest on the channel today. Joe, go ahead and introduce yourself. Let them know where they can find you. You guys probably know who this is, but I'm gonna let him introduce himself anyways.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm Joe Camo, also known as TCR or the Cardinal Rule. You can find me on Twitter at JOKOMO13 and on YouTube at the Cardinal Rule, where I've got a group of folks who love talking Arizona Cardinals content.
Appreciate you for stopping by, Joe. I am ready to kick this mock off. There's a lot of things that we need to address through the draft. I think we can both agree, though free agency was pretty solid, we still have some holes on the team, and we are in a really good spot, I think, because the top end talent isn't necessarily fantastic, and we're dead middle of the draft. I think we're in a really good position. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. In fact, not only that, the way this draft lines up in terms of its strengths and weaknesses really works well for the Cardinals. If you need a quarterback, not your year. Well, we're not looking for a quarterback. If you need a receiver, not your year. Although we could maybe use a little depth there, that's not our primary need. But if you need defensive line help or edge help, this is a really good draft, which, as we know and we will talk about today, that is one of the biggest areas of needs for the Cardinals. So in terms of where they are at in sort of their building of this roster, and like you said, being middle of the draft, players might fall to you, or if the right player doesn't fall to you, you can trade back and still get probably someone you really like. It really sets up to be a good draft for where the Cardinals are at right now.
I agree 100%. So if you had to go into this draft with three of the biggest positions of need that the Cardinals have to address through the draft, what would you say they are and why?
So for me, defensive tackle is number one. It would have been edge, but they, help bring some strength to that room with Josh Sweat. They still could use some help in terms of developing some guys for down the road. But defensive tackle is number one. But then I would put edge at number two. I think having Josh Sweat in there now, instead of trying to find someone who's an immediate starter, I think you're looking for someone with more of a high upside, but they do still need to plan for the future there. And in terms of the third one, this is a little tricky. I think for me, it might not be what everyone else would say, but I actually would go inside linebacker. And I know you were big on Drake Greenlaw, I believe, as a free agent. You
I
wanted to see the
definitely
Cardinals
was.
bring in. And I would like to see them draft someone maybe on day two who could develop into that really good linebacker. And guys you get on day two at inside linebacker tend to be really good. A guy named Nick Bolton just got paid, and he was a second round pick, I believe. So that's a really good day two is a really good spot for those. So to me, those would be three positions, and not surprisingly, they're all defensive positions.
I don't really fault you for any of those picks. I think you could throw like a receiver in there that you can get in like the second, third round. You could throw guard, you can throw tackle, but all three positions that you listed are top end needs. I wanted to see us address those to free agency. We kind of touch on it with Dalvin Tomlinson in free agency, Josh Sweat in free agency, and an inside linebacker. We signed a couple guys, but those guys are special teamers and just rotational pieces. So it's nothing that I'm expecting the Cardinals to come in here and just have massive impact from. So I would like to see us address inside linebacker too. And the way these mocks have gone, if these players are available in the second round, the Cardinals probably go inside linebacker. I think there's a lot of prospects that could help this team right away and probably be the best inside linebacker on the team if it's not Mac Wilson.
Yeah, I agree. And that really, when you look at inside linebacker, I know we got burnt by Steve Keim taking first round linebackers all the time, but second round and third round are really great places to get inside linebackers because the rest of the league does not tend to take them in the first round. So if you're taking a guy in round two, you're getting one of the top couple of inside linebackers at the in the draft. So that it's a non-premium position. That's why they go a little bit later, but with that said, if you do go after one in round two or three, you're getting one of the better players in the draft at that position. And, as you talked about, they brought in guys who are kind of special teams, guys who can play some, but besides Mac Wilson, they don't have that legit, green dot inside linebacker, quarterback of the defense of the future. I've talked about this in the past in terms of looking at the draft history of where Monty Ossenfort cut his teeth. And, they like to take linebackers all through the draft. They really like taking them in the fifth round. But they also do that more because that's kind of special teams area as well, this is a middle linebacker is a position that plays a lot of special teams. But I think this roster is really set up to go after that one guy, right? I think they need, as you talked about, they need that guy because they didn't pick him up in free agency. They don't have a guy on the roster that I think is going to develop into that player unless they move Zaven back, which they don't seem to be, looking like they're going to do. So, yeah, it just makes so much sense. Get that quarterback of your defense this year.
I agree 100%. And they didn't go out and get the one free agent that I really wanted in Dre Greenlaw, as you touched
Yeah.
on. I think he's going to do so exceptional in Denver. That
Yeah.
defense is just phenomenal. Then they also signed Hafunga as well. Like, that defense was great last year. And if you just ask a casual NFL fan to name anybody but Pat Surtain on that defense, they're probably not coming up with a ton of names. Obviously, there's Zach Allen, there's a ton of other guys, but like the casual NFL fan, you're probably not naming people on that Denver defense. Now you kind of got the star power to go along with it, and if Dre Greenlaw comes back from that injury and can actually play up to his potential, that is a very scary team just overall. So if the Cardinals can address it through the draft, perfectly fine, and that seems like the route they're going to take. I think you hit that right on the head. Are you ready to kick this thing off?
Let's do it.
Let's go ahead and get it going. If you want to trade up too, let me know. I'm very enticed with Mason Graham around if he falls to pick 7, but you can let me know. If he's there, we'll pause it. If not, we'll just
I'm not
chill.
going to trade up. I'll tell you that now.
That's perfectly fine. He went at 6. We are good right here. There's prospects falling to us. There goes Will Johnson. That's someone that I've mocked to us personally, but we're left with some interesting options. Who stands out to you on the board right now?
Well, Kenneth Grant is the guy everyone keeps looking at here, and I really like this player. But with as deep as this interior defensive line is, you're going to get a guy in round 2 who might not be quite as good as him to start out with, but there's a lot of good defensive tackles that are going to be going on day 2. So, because it's such a deep position, as much as I love Grant, I'm probably looking, if it's me, I'm looking to trade, but that's the player that really kind of stands out. I also think Josh Simmons is interesting. If you want to try to just really go premium on your tackle positions, in terms of, we've got the left tackle, obviously Paris Johnson Jr., Josh Simmons, there'd be familiarity from Ohio State. Usually your right tackle you think of as a player you can get and develop on day 3. In fact, that's you see that with the Patriots did that with a guy named Marcus Cannon, a 5th round pick who was their starting right tackle for a lot of years. But if this team decided they just wanted to really lean into going all in on a good running game and all in on a premium offensive line, they could decide that going with your right tackle of the future in the first round is worth doing it. You could also look at Kelvin Banks Jr. for that same kind of philosophy, right? Either one of those two guys. If Simmons, or if you want to go health, or if you're concerned about the injury history with Simmons, maybe you go Banks. So I think that's also in play. And then, I'm going to butcher his name, but the edge rusher that you up
Donovan.
there. Yes.
Yeah.
If you wanted to go high end edge rusher, out of Boston College, if you want to go edge early, I think they're more likely to go edge later, but I could absolutely see that. So those are some names that stand out to me. I see that the mock draft simulator only gives us one trade option, so we might have to stick and pick depending on who it is. But for me, those are the names that kind of stand out right there.
I agree 100%, especially for pick 16. There's other names I like here, like Emeka Buka. Wouldn't take him here. James Pierce's quote-unquote character issues. I don't know what that's about. I don't know if that's legit or not. Obviously, Monty's going to deep dive into that. If he's worth the pick, he's worth the pick. But I trust his judgment to actually get the one-on-one interview and kind of to ask around and have the scouts around and be able to, see what's going on with there. And then Derek Harmon's interesting, but not at pick 16. So I think you nailed every single name so far. And Donovan has grown on me so much through the past 2 weeks. The film backs everything. 14 total sacks, 20 hits on the quarterback, 26 hurries with an 18.2 pass rush win rate and a 90 pass rush grade. His tape speaks for itself. He's very underrated in this class, and he's kind of climbing now. He was going late first round in the earlier mocks, and now he's bumped up to number 16. So clearly they're catching up. So we'll look at the trade. We'll see what it is. And it's Carolina, who does not have a first-round pick anymore. They use it at pick 8. I mean, we could pick another team right here. Is there a certain spot you would like to trade back to that you think is realistic?
So let's look at that. Go back to the drafted player, just kind of see how the board looks one more time. So here's if I'm trading back, right, I'm wanting to get in a position. The players I'm looking at are either, if I can trade back and get one of those players I mentioned, Grant, Simmons, Banks, and I'd throw Walter Nolan in there if you want to go, another defensive tackle position. So there's 4 players on the board right there that I wouldn't mind, and maybe even a 5th in there if we look at one of the you mentioned the receiver that you really like. So let's try trading back 5 spots, because I don't think watch it be exactly the 4 guys I want that go. let's try trading about 5 spots unless it's a division.
You want to go to Pittsburgh?
Let's see what Pitts. Yeah, let's go ahead and obviously we'll have to force that trade. But let's go ahead and do that. And let's see if we take. I wonder if we pick 83, get pick 83 in that, we might have to give something up to do that.
We can give
maybe
up like 115.
Yeah, let's see about that. And that it's probably somewhere in that wheelhouse. Okay,
Went through.
there we go.
Not bad.
So let's look at that and see who's still on the board.
So Abuka went, Donovan, and then Josh Simmons were 3 of the prospects, which leaves us with a good bunch. We still got Kenneth Grant, Kelvin Banks, Walter Nolan, who I think are all very realistic picks right here. Are you comfortable taking a Kenneth Grant right here, or were you thinking Walter Nolan? What's your thought process?
You know, I think Nolan or Grant feels like the safer pick. So there's still part of me that, man, I don't want to. I would trade back all day. I think if you let me.
I mean, I'm not against a trade back right here. I think it's
let's
good
try
spot.
one more.
I think
Let's
it's
try
a
one
good spot to trade back because there's still
Yeah,
prospects.
'cause
And even if we trade back to like 28, I'm comfortable taking a Derek Harmon.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm comfortable. And if somebody like Walter Nolan ends up falling to us too, and he goes and slides a couple more picks, I wouldn't be against it.
I'm
'Cause
with
we
you.
could trade
So
back 2 spots right now.
let's see what see what we can get, and because this is when they're offering, we don't have to force it. So
I mean, we could 50-50 it and see if they give us 87.
Let's see what they say.
And it goes through.
Let's
to
do
trade
it.
back 2 spots and get a third, that sounds good to me. And there goes Kenneth Grant. But again, there's still prospects on the board I'm comfortable with.
So if it's me here, we've added some picks on day 2, and I do like there's a lot of good defensive tackles throughout. When you look at that, we picked up Tomlinson, that kind of gives us a little room to develop someone. Pierce is still there. I know there's those issues, but that is enticing upside. So I think the offensive tackle though falls off. So if you want to get Banks, you got to go here. If you want to go offensive tackle and go premium there, or you could go with defensive tackle like someone like Nolan. And I know you like the guy from Oregon. So this is my mock draft. Is that right?
It's both of ours together. I mean,
both.
Personally, I would rock Kelvin Banks here just because the tackle supply is going to fall off. I want to know what you have to say. We don't have to consensusly pick it. We can go back and forth, but I would personally go Kelvin Banks. And since we acquired more third-round capital, if Derek Harmon or Walter Nolan fall to pick 34 or 35, I'm not against a trade-up.
Let's do this. Let's take Banks, and when Nolan or Harmon goes off the board, whichever goes off first, let's trade up and grab the other one.
I'm not mad at that whatsoever. We just got tackle, and Kelvin Banks is also one of those players.
Nolan just went.
So
let's think. Now he went pretty quick. Do you want to try to trade back into 26, or do you want to sit for a little?
I mean, you
really like
Harmon
Harmon
sitting till 28.
Okay, let's see what happens. Let's see if Harmon sticks around there.
He is still here.
Okay. If you want to try to trade up here, I'm good with that. Unless you want to sit, I like the defensive tackle depth, so I don't mind going a little longer. But if you like Harmon, and if Monty likes him, okay.
I think we could wait. I'm not mad waiting till Cleveland's pick.
Okay.
And then if he's not here, we could just wait till 47. We just have more third-round capital. And Derek Harmon is still on the board. I'm comfortable trading to 33.
Let's do it. I like this.
So we can go. I mean, are you comfortable? And then can we get a 179?
I think we'll get better than that. Oh, 104 was really 54. Close. Yeah.
Ooh. Okay. This is a 54% chance. Let's see. And it goes through. So Derek Harmon's the pick.
Deal.
That's it, man. I like that a lot. Because Kelvin Banks is one of the players that the 3 players that I said the Cardinals need to look into is Abuka, Kelvin Banks, and I think it was Will Johnson was the 3rd one that I'm comfortable drafting.
Yeah.
So I'm not mad at how that fell. And this is the first time I've mocked him up. So I love that.
If you told me we got those 2 guys, we got one of those offensive tackles before it falls off a cliff, and we got Harmon, one of those, probably 2nd-tier defensive tackles that's kind of in that cluster that we like, I'd be really happy with that.
Absolutely. This is probably the best mock that I've done personally because every time I try to trade up for Harmon, as soon as I speak it into existence, he
It's
goes off the board. And it's just so irritating. I already see names on the board that stand out
oh,
to me
come on,
personally.
Chris Paul Jr., right? That's that linebacker
Exactly.
we're talking
This
about.
is exactly what we need. Good cover, good in the pass rush. He can do everything. His skill set translates really well. And this is literally the perfect player to convert to this defense. We need an inside
Yeah.
linebacker, and he just falls in our lap like that. First name
I
instantly
think
stands out on the board.
I think it's chalk, man.
It's easy. It's so simple. It is so simple. That is the easiest pick I think we made so far. And this is
Right.
interesting. I don't think we double down, but Alfred Collins is very interesting. I don't know how you feel about a double down. I think we have other positions to address, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it is a really good defensive tackle class, but I think that we see what kind of edge rushers, and there's a receiver there that's interesting in
Trey
Jalen
Harris,
Noel.
6'3", right? Oh, Jalen Noel.
Yeah,
I'm not mad at this whatsoever. I mean, he
kind
is
of
on the
get that.
shorter side, but this is kind of someone you could slot in at the slot, and this is going to be the kind of player that fits in perfectly.
Right. So I don't hate that. I don't mind looking at some other edge players. But I think, and I wouldn't hate doubling up a defensive tackle, but I think with Tomlinson, the guy we just drafted, and I think they'll continue to they might add another, and we might add another one late on day 3, but um, I don't mind going. I don't mind going receiver here. I don't mind going edge.
So Jalen stands out. What do you think about Jonah and converting him to guard?
I don't mind that, and one of the things we talked about, my stuff is the draft chart where I look at the trends, right, that I've talked about, and the Patriots and Monty has kind of stuck with this trend is interior offensive line. They don't go before round 3. They really like taking round 4. Round 4 is a sweet spot, but they've taken a few in round 3, including Isaiah Adams. So this would fit. This would be for Monty if he's going in round 3. That's a little premium for him, so he's really got to like the guy. But this is a spot where they would absolutely take a guy like that and convert him to an interior offensive lineman and develop him. I think with the guys they've drafted and having house, it's a little more likely they wait. But I would not. I think that it would make sense, and I wouldn't hate it. I do think they need to get an interior offensive line somewhere. So yeah, I mean, if you like that direction, I'll tell you, Wyatt Millum is another guy I like. Now, if we hadn't gone tackle early, if you go down to West, this guy, look at his profile,
He's
runner,
ridiculous.
run blocking is his big strength. Now he's a guy who could go inside or could stay at right tackle. And if we didn't go Banks, this is the guy I'm going here with, right?
100%.
For me, I'm probably, because we already got offensive linemen. I don't know. There's not an. I think so. I think we're going to go really defensive heavy from here on out. I have a feeling. And let's get that one kind of guy who becomes, as much as we love Dortch, this is kind of the heir apparent, maybe an upgrade at the slot.
And I'm not comfortable rocking the same receiver core that we had last year. That's a big problem. Yeah. So going third round and bringing a guy in that you think can translate and actually give you more production is something we need. I mean, signing Greg Dortch back and putting that tender on, so if he's back, which I'm pretty sure he will be, that's fine. Michael Wilson, solid receiver. Marvin Harrison, I think he's going to come into his own more, and obviously Trey McBride. But, we just signed, was it Zay Jones back? So we're rocking with the same top 4 receivers, potentially Xavier Weaver. So that same receiving core that we were complaining about separation, struggling to get open, running that back with the interior line collapsing, that's just, it's not what you want. So I'm not mad taking a Jalen Noel. Is that?
And I will say, I think this is how they're going to manage this receiver room. They went premium with Marvin Harrison Jr., but they are building a run-heavy offense with Trey McBride as a premier pass catcher. So they're not going. I don't think they're going first-round wide receiver all the time. I think they're going to have Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., and then a handful of guys like Michael Wilson, who they draft on day 2 and 3 that kind of fill the depth. So Jalen Noel kind of fits that mold of a round 3 receiver to add to that room. That's still a room that's going to still kind of be more of a complement to the tight end and run heavy offense that they're going with.
Let's go ahead and do it. And Marvin Harrison also fits in perfectly. 6'4" receiver, willing to block very early on in his career. Even Larry Fitzgerald came out and said that on tape, shows for itself. And I think he's going to come into his own. So this is just a compliment to the offense, and it gives you something different. Because that same receiving core is not going to cut it. I just can't imagine rocking with the same core. So here we go. Pick 104. There's not a ton of names that stand out, but if I'm not mistaken, there's gonna be some edges.
Yeah. So
Quandarius Robinson's interesting to me.
we didn't go edge yet, right?
I
So
don't think
if
so.
I'm looking edge, I am looking for someone, in my opinion, and I think this makes a lot of sense, that is more upside, like physical tools, but maybe needs some work, right? Because this player doesn't have to start for us, doesn't have to play. So you've got Josh Sweat, you've got BJ Ojolari, you've got some other guys that you're rotating in there, and obviously you got Zaven playing the edge, as such as it were, the way they play him there. So you're looking for a guy, in my opinion, who you're taking a chance on, a guy who can develop and has a high ceiling, even if his floor isn't as high. That's what I'm looking at.
Any name that stands out to you personally? There's two names that I don't hate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
Ashton, I don't mind, and then Quandarius Robinson, I don't mind either.
So
Quandarius is nice because he went to a big school too, so he played
right.
NFL talent. So this is a player where it's like the upside is there, and he was playing against actual talent. When you go to Louisville, that's when things get a little shaky. Because
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, you're all good.
And when you look at Quindarius, like they talk about twitchy and sort of, and you're right. If you go to Bama, you are a really good athlete, and so I think this is a player who didn't have the high sack production, but you look at his grades, right? On the snaps that he had, a lot of blue there, right? So this is the kind of guy that has the athletic traits that you're looking. Okay, let's bring him in and see if we can develop him. So all things being equal, this is probably more the direction I'm going.
Okay, perfect. That is consensus agreed upon once again. I'm not mad at that whatsoever. And then we still have
Yeah.
152 and 225, but I think the mock is shaping out like perfect. Like if this is what it looks like, I think we nailed it.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy if that's how it looks.
I'm very happy. So right now, I think you could either go, you could double down on defensive tackle, you can go to guard, you could go ahead and potentially look at edge again because we let a couple guys go that we have positions to fill. We could go, I mean, you don't really need safety. Corner stands out to me as well. What positions do you think we should look into? I'd say interior line and corner are probably two of those.
So, I've referenced sort of the draft chart that I put together. We call it the almighty chart in TCR land, right? It's this chart that looks at which rounds do the Cardinals, or is Monty likely to take which position, right? I took when he was in the front office with the Patriots, which positions did they take at which rounds? And then I look at what he's done here. And fourth round is a major hot spot for interior offensive line. Like they've taken more there than I think all the other rounds combined. They just like on round 4, like the beginning of day 3, that's where they like getting their guards and centers. So for me, I'm looking guard, center, or tackle that will be converted, right? Moved inside. They do tend to like guys that are kind of athletic there. So I would also look at, let's see if there's some tackles there as well that look like, now obviously you look at Georgia, that program, right? That's where you get a lot of really good players as well. In addition to Bama. So I haven't looked at the tape on these guys, so I don't necessarily have a specific name, or a lot of names I like are already off the board. But I'm probably looking, if you see someone who's athletic, probably has shorter arms, so they have to move him inside. That's probably where we're looking at here.
Let's see if anybody stands out. So far, there's a lot of 6'7" tackles, 6'8",
Yeah.
344.
And then you're getting way down the
6'6".
board there.
Right, you definitely.
So
don't
probably
wanna
go
that
back
far.
look at the interior, right?
I think Connor Colby is a little interesting, but I mean, right here it says potential value, depth, and Shannon style offense. Potentially somebody that could fit into this. I'm not.
Yeah, and we're doing the zone runs, so that Shanahan style offense
Yeah,
is kind of the
it
school
kind
of thought.
Yeah, it kind of fits. Just a lot of tall guards this year.
Cooper, they were talking about a zone offense for him too. As you get further here, we're starting to get way further.
Yeah, this is probably where it cuts off right here. It's probably where 196 to this range is probably where you want to keep it for this.
Look at Cooper again. Look at Cooper. Because his bio, they talk about outside zone-based running game, strength development crucial, lack of length. Okay, the average athleticism is a knock for me, so that's probably not where we're going. So maybe Colby might be the guy. That seems maybe.
This
I
is
know
kind
he's a
of what
little
I keep
taller.
lingering back to too. He's a big
Unless
boy.
I'll tell you, here's what I say. Let's look at just all positions one last time. See if there's anyone that just jumps out to you. If not, we can look at taking. Now, I will say you mentioned you don't see safety. I think we might get a safety because we talked. I don't know that Jalen Thompson's here after his contract ends,
I don't think
but
so either.
yeah. So I think Rabbit's going to be a starter next year, and then Buddha. He's got. I don't know that he'll be back after his extension. So they might look to develop or draft another one and develop, but they might wait till next year.
I think waiting till
So
next year for safety to bring in a prospect that could
mhm,
be a replacement is probably smart, especially if we wait till pick 152, unless there's someone
yeah,
whose tape, which I'm not really familiar with a ton of these guys right here
yeah,
in terms of safety, so I don't know personally. I know Craig Woodson grades really well, but he went to
hmm
Cal, so.
right,
But I
right.
mean, he's had some good graded games too, like FSU,
Pretty consistent, really.
Miami. Like, there's some good teams in here thrown in the bunch that he's graded really well against. So if
Yeah,
it comes down to it, this is a guy I always kind of just teeter back to. 6 foot 210,
right.
good in terms of coverage, good in terms of run. Like, very interesting prospect.
Going to be
And
there later too.
for
Yeah.
sure, that's probably someone
So
I'd take at 225.
is there anyone you love here? I mean, I think I don't know. I think they really need another running back right now. Although I could see them taking one to just shore up that room. So I think, yeah, I
It's a
know.
tough spot. I mean, let's see. Dylan Fairchild, like the interior depth, consistent pass protection skills. I think we need someone, like you said, athletic who
Mhm.
thrives in run protection. I think that just fits what we need.
Yeah.
So someone like Connor Colby who grades better for the run would be an interesting player to bring in. And I mean, he's pretty high up on the board in terms of where it is. We're 152. He's ranked 170. I mean, we could trade back, try to get another pick.
You know what? Let's do that because if we're stuck, let's trade back. If you don't love someone that's sitting there, trade back a few and see what you can get.
We can
Right?
go to 156. I mean, let's see. Can
Yeah.
we get 229? We can get 229.
And we might even. Yeah, can we?
Ooh.
I tell you what. See if they'll give us 185 for our 225. Put 156. Okay, no, they don't want that. Okay. Tell you, drop our 225 and then pick up a pick next year.
You want to
Go
go
ahead and
to
put
seventh?
229 back on there.
I think we just
And
rock
then
with this, and then this, and then it's 47%. But I mean, we could offer it and see if it goes through. They're not feeling it. I mean, if we throw,
okay. I tell you, let's not get too tricky. Let's
yeah,
just
just
take
rock
the
with this.
yeah, yeah.
Move back 4 picks, pick up another 7th rounder, allow us to dabble into 2 players. No one really went off the board that we want. I mean, we could look to trade back again. That's a pretty steep trade back right there.
Yeah, let's scroll down just a little. I want to see who else is here. Just a few picks down from all positions. All right. I mean, there's a linebacker, Kobe King, but we already took a linebacker. I don't know that we need another one necessarily.
Nick Nash is interesting, Triple Crown winner.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we go with the guard that we traded back and he's still there.
Connor
Cool.
Colby.
Yeah, I think we do that.
It's a name that I keep going back to as well. It's like the only prospect that really kind of stands out based on
Mhm.
what he provides. So let's go ahead and take the chance on him. Neither of us have film on him, but we're going off PFF right there.
Right, right.
We're going off PFF. Every other
At this
player,
point,
I'm very aware of how they play. I've watched at least some tape. The
mhm.
other, Connor Colby, not a clue in the world. I'm gonna keep it so honest. Not a clue in the world.
Listen, that's fair. At this point, that's kind of what it's like, right? All right, so here we are, round 7. Here, I will tell you, they like taking cornerbacks late here. They like taking cornerbacks on day 2 and then again in round 6 and 7. So if you mentioned cornerback early, and they have a lot of cornerbacks. I don't go cornerbacks in my drafts because they've drafted so many. I think they're going to try to develop them. But if you really kind of want to go with a cornerback, this is a good place to do it in terms of like the draft strategy. They also like going edge late. They like going safety, or well, they've grabbed a few safeties late. In the history, wide receiver. So yeah, I think there's a lot of directions we could go. What are you thinking?
Would you be comfortable dabbling in with like a Johnny Walker and then taking like a Craig Woodson?
Yeah, I'll tell you, when you're talking 7th round, I mean, let's take some shots.
Let's go
with
ahead and
guys that
start
you
out with
like.
the Craig Woodson, and then we'll just dabble in with edge one more time. This pick doesn't really matter with the Johnny Walker, and just call it a
Oh,
draft right there.
boom.
I'm not mad at that whatsoever. We've got 2 7th round picks right here, and I believe we entered with 6 picks going in, so
Mhm.
walking away with 7 total. Not bad. 2 prospects at the back end that don't really matter. Potentially could pan out. You never know. But here's our draft. I mean, they're knocking the Kelvin Banks pick, but that's someone I'm really high on. That's in my
Right.
top 3. Fits perfect, and it came down through a trade down. Picked up a
Hmm.
fourth, or we gave up a fourth, got a third, moved back 5 spots. That's good value right there with Pittsburgh. Then we were stuck with prospects we still like, so we traded back more, got another third to move back 2 spot. That's a good pick, and then we got Kelvin Banks. I think that's a perfect selection. How do you feel about that?
I love it. I mean, again, tackle falls off there, so we decided to go premium and really reinforce what they're trying to do as a run heavy team, right? So give him that really good offensive line that clears the way for whoever's going to be running the ball for the next 5 to 10 years. And then we get one of those defensive tackles we really like, right? A guy who a lot of people have going in the first round. We managed to get him top of the second round. Do a little move to get him. Then that linebacker just fell right to us, right?
Perfect position.
So good. And then, yeah, and getting a receiver to complement, what we've got there. I mean, just across the board, I think it really makes a lot of sense. Safety late, again, we've talked about maybe developing someone for down the road, but more importantly, that ends up being someone who helps on special teams. Got a couple edges to develop while Josh Sweat is kind of doing the work right now. I think this draft sets them up with some nice players and some guys to develop.
I think so too. And dabbling in, like, let's just say Quandarius and Johnny Walker both don't pan out. They're
Mhm.
replacing Victor, and they're also replacing Dennis Gardick. You can put
Right.
it in that process. Like, these are depth players at the end of the day. If they pan out to anything more than that, perfect. I think Quandarius has more upside than Johnny Walker. Obviously, that's why we took him in round 4, and he has good production at a high end school. So we're in a good spot here, and they're basically replacing those 2 guys who we're not bringing back, and we just added Josh Sweat. We have a pretty interesting edge room as it stands right now with B.J. Ojolari, Zaven Collins, and then Josh Sweat are the top guys. It's an interesting rotation. Then you throw these guys in, and now you kind of have stability. You have a little bit of working room, and we're in a good spot.
And something I've always been a fan of, and I've talked about this a lot on my live streams, is the way the Baltimore Ravens handle their edge position. They draft guys on day 2 and 3, a lot of guys like middle rounds, 4th and 5th, and develop them. And then, when it comes time to pay them, they usually let them walk, but they've got another guy in the pipeline, and they just draft and develop those guys really well. And they don't usually pay a lot of money. They keep like maybe one guy that they pay, and the other guys they just kind of rotate and develop, and they do it well. So I like that, taking shots at edge, right? So here we've got BJ Ojolari, Xavier Thomas, the guys, and then here the guys we just drafted can add to that mix, and someone's going to hopefully develop to be a solid number 2 edge rusher, and maybe even a number 1. Sometimes you get a guy who's a 4th round pick ends up being Max Crosby, right? So if you take shots with those guys and develop them, someone usually pans out to be solid, and then maybe you just pay one guy to be that premium guy, like we're paying Josh Sweat.
Yeah, I like this mock a ton. I think that is the perfect way to go out. Like, this is if the Cardinals can have anything similar to this, and I think that Chris Paul pick really kind of set this thing off.
Yeah.
Like, the trade up for Derek Carmen was great, and the first 2 picks went exceptionally. And then Chris Paul fell into our lap, who I'm a huge fan of. It just worked out so nice. And then the extra 3rd round pick we got, we took a receiver. I don't think the Cardinals can do any better than this. So if you had to grade it, they're giving us a B plus. What would you grade this?
I mean, I'm giving it a solid A to A minus at most, because I think you can always be a little better, but I think I'd be very happy with a draft that looks like this.
I would definitely say A to A minus is perfectly fair. I love it. We need this. We need it in our life. Appreciate you for stopping by though and mocking this up. Let them know one more time where they could find you at.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always good talking with you, Cardinals football. You can find me again on Twitter, JOKOMO13, Jokomo13. You can find me on YouTube at the Cardinal Rule. And yeah, come check out my content.
Go ahead and check him out. Also, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. We're on the road to 8,000 subscribers, just a couple away. So appreciate you guys, man. It is much love. It has been your boy Mythic and Joe. Let us know down in the comment section below as well what your grade for the mock is. But it's been your boy Mythic and Joe. Peace out.
Peace.